That's how long my brother let his wife slowly erase him, one small no at a time, until the man I grew up with barely existed anymore. Then one night at 2 a.m., he called me from a parking lot crying and everything changed. Stay with me till the end, because what happened next is the reason I'm even telling you this story, and I promise you will not see the ending coming. My name is Grant Whitfield. I'm 58, a retired corrections officer from Louisville, Kentucky. I spent half my life reading people trapped in cages, so I know exactly what a caged man looks like, even when the cage is a marriage instead of a cell. I saw it in my twin brother Nathaniel years ago. I just didn't know what to do about it until that phone call ripped me out of bed and changed everything. Nate married Denise almost 30 years ago. She was sharp, controlled, always 3 steps ahead. At first it looked like structure. Slowly it became a leash. She talked him out of a dream job in another state and let his boss think it was Nate's choice. She kept their savings in her name only and gave him an allowance like a teenager. She pushed away his best friend Desmond, calling him a bad influence after Desmond's divorce. Nate stopped fighting. He just got quieter every year until quiet became his whole personality. That night Nate called me shaking, hiding in a grocery store parking lot because he was terrified to go home. He'd asked Denise for one weekend to go fishing. She didn't yell. She just looked at him and said, "I thought you cared about this family," and walked away. That sentence broke something in him. He talked to me for over 90 minutes, and every story he told me made my chest tighter. This wasn't marriage. This was management. I told him to check into a hotel and get some real sleep. Then I told him something that surprised even me. I'm coming to Cincinnati. My wife Loretta didn't even blink when I told her. She just said, "You're going to need to practice his handwriting," and started rearranging our whole life so I could go save my brothers. Here's the part that changes everything. Nate and I are identical twins. Same face, same voice, same walk. So I made a decision. Nate would stay in Louisville with Loretta, resting, eating real meals, remembering who he used to be. And I would walk into his house, into his life, into his marriage as him. Not to lie forever, just long enough to show Denise what happens when the man she'd been quietly controlling suddenly stops flinching. For 2 days, Nate told me everything. Her routines, her moods, her tricks. The way she gave orders without even looking at him. I studied it like a case file. Sunday afternoon, I drove his car into his driveway, walked into his kitchen, and became my brother. The first test came fast. Monday morning, Denise rattled off a list of demands. Move plans, cancel Nate's time with his son, move his car because a guest might comment on it. For 30 years, the answer had always been yes. This time I said no, calm, steady, no apology in my voice. She froze like a machine that had lost power. She didn't know this version of him existed. By midweek, the cracks were showing. She tried sweetness, guilt, silence, every tool she'd used for decades. None of it worked because I wasn't operating from fear. I was operating from 30 years of watching my brother disappear. And I refused to disappear too. Saturday, I invited everyone Denise had slowly cut out of Nate's life. His old friend Desmond, his buddy Wade, his kids Casey and Brooke. The house that had been silent for years suddenly filled with laughter, stories, real conversation. Denise walked downstairs into a home that no longer revolved around her control, and for the first time, she looked lost in her own kitchen. Then her mother, Eleanor, arrived. She looked at me a moment too long, took my hands instead of hugging me the way Nate always did, and quietly said, "You're not Nate, you're his brother." She wasn't angry. She was tired. She told me her own marriage had run on the exact same fear for 41 years, and she never let herself ask if her husband had ever truly been happy. "I taught Denise this," she said. "I taught her that control is how you keep someone." That was the moment the truth stopped being a secret and started being a mirror. That evening, Nate came home. He walked into his own kitchen, full of the people who loved him, and for the first time in years, he wasn't managing anyone's mood. He was just present. Denise watched her husband return to a life she thought she owned, and something in her finally broke open, not in anger, but in grief for what she had built. Days later, Nate called me from his own kitchen, not a parking lot. Denise had agreed to counseling. She told him something that stopped me cold. He's the only person who ever looked me in the eye and waited for a real answer. For the first time in 30 years, that was true. Today, Nate laughs at dinner, really laughs, without checking if it's allowed. His friend Desmond is back in his life. His kids see their father standing up straight for the first time, and me? I went back to Louisville, back to my own coffee mug, held the way I've always held it. But I'll never forget the week I wore my brother's face just long enough to give him his life back. If this story hit you the way it hit me, drop a comment and tell me what part stayed with you the most. I read every single one. And if you want more real, raw, family-driven stories like this, hit that like button and subscribe. Because trust me, the next one might hit even harder.